Good morning. Welcome to our service today. Nice to have so many of you here and there joining us for the service. This is usually our graduation service. This past year has been particularly difficult, and so not only the graduates but all the students had to go through a difficult time with the pandemic and Zoom learning and different aspects of learning, and having to miss their friends, the close situations that they are usually accustomed to at schools. And so it's been a difficult time, not only for the students but for their parents as well. So we want to acknowledge everyone for having to endure such a difficult time. I'd like to introduce you to our chairpersons, service chairpersons for today. Today, serving as our service chairpersons, we're very happy to have Bear and Moose. They are long-distance members of our temple. They come from Alaska, and just happy to be able to join our Shin Buddhist Sangha. And so being able to serve as chairpersons, they feel all the more a part of our temples, a part of our congregation. So we welcome them and we thank them for serving in this capacity. Bear and Moose have their masks on, again reminding us to continue to be safe and cautious for ourselves and for others. And you will notice that they have their onenju on, so they are ready for service. I'd like to go through our service order for today. We will have the reading of the three treasures, and then the Sharmon, the three treasures in Japanese. This will be followed by sutra chanting, the Sambujo, and the Ni Rai. Nembutsu and Ekoku will complete the chanting portion of our service, and then I'll be back for our Dharma message. So let's begin with the three treasures. Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not realize the truth in this life, when will it be realized? Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we absorb ourselves in the principle of the way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves the supreme will. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we be submerged in the depths of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we live in harmony in the great assembly as disciples of Buddha and be freed from all hindrances, becoming units of true accord in the life of harmony, in a spirit of universal oneness, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriad ages of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teachings. Sharmon. Ninjin ukegatashi imasuri ni uku, buppo kikigatashi imasuri ni kiku, konomi konjo ni mukatte dose zumba, sarani izure no sho ni mukatte kakonomi o dosen, taishu morotomo ni shishin ni sambo ni kieshi tatematsuru beshi. Mizukara butsu ni kieshi tatematsuru, Wasan nega wakuba shujo to tomoni, daido taige shite mujo yo okosan, mizukara ho ni kieshi tatematsuru, wasan nega wakuba shujo to tomoni, fukaku kyozo ni irite chie umi no gotoku naran. 自らそうに消えし立てまつる。まさに願わくば史上とともに、大衆を通りして一切無下ならん。無常人人未明の方は、百千万号にも愛をことかたし、我今見聞し従事することを得たり、願わくば如来の真実義を消し立てまつらん。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダー、ナマンダー、ナマンダー。三部上、十二来。ナマンダー、ナマンダー、ナマンダー。 行女蔵部両目上略少連へ古賀将来未打損面前年上女満月以降有女千日月小女天空くしら古賀将来未打損観音頂戴観中樹修十名を総総言のぶくげどまけおまん古賀将来未打損無備無苦故障上習得経血女国小さり悪徳自在古賀将来未打損実法名門菩薩衆無料小魔女三段一生修上願力中古賀将来未打損根体保険地小家前言少女名を大座お膝上女仙の古賀将来未打損実法将来小仏師権限人図死安楽戦後尊厳直行古賀将来未打損超無常無我と薬女水月伝女老一種説法無名字古賀将来未打損一尊無説無悪名薬無女になく道夫修人死信教非尊古賀将来未打損非尊無料法勉強無所主悪知識往生不退死菩提古賀将来未打損我説非尊功徳寺修善無縁如海水小逆前言少女者衛生修上昇飛行ナマンダム Good morning again. Welcome again to our graduation and family service. I'd like to begin today with the reading of the Wasan. Please join me in Gassho. No less than people of Shinjin, practicers of doubt who cling to self-power, should awaken to the benevolence of Amida's great compassion and endeavor in saying the Nembutsu. Namo Amida. Namo Amida, Namo Amida, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Okay, so in this Wasan, Shindan is pointing out people who have doubts, clinging to their own self-power. So there might be people here in the temple and others outside of the temple who have doubts about Amida and how does the Nembutsu work, and I don't know if I believe in that stuff. I believe in myself, so I'll do my own way. And this kind of sense of self and your own abilities. And so reminding people like this to be able to awaken to the benevolence of Amida, to recognize what great compassion is and how the Nembutsu works. And so it is asking us to look beyond our own self-effort, our own self-power, and recognizing that we have this doubt. So where does this doubt come from, and how does this doubt keep us from moving forward to be able to recognize what the Nembutsu is? Okay? So we each have parts of this that we struggle with, and maybe we dismiss, or maybe we look at, encounter it, and try to work through what all this means. So this is what the Wasan is pointing out. So today, as I have been thinking about graduation, we had a meeting at the stables where Shadow stays, and the owner is named Abelino, Hispanic gentleman, and he has a young son named who is Junior, Abelino Jr. And the younger Abelino was graduating from high school this year. And so Sharmon was able to see him. He's there often, working with the other workers and cleaning up, taking care of the stables and for all of the horses that are staying there. And so Sharmon went up to him and said, "Oh, congratulations, I understand you're graduating from high school. So you must be very proud of yourself, and your parents must be so happy for you," and all these things, and mentioning how time goes by very fast. And so she mentioned that she had graduated from high school 50 years ago. And the younger Abelino and the other workers there seemed stunned that someone could be that old, 50 years ago. And even myself, I don't think of it as 50 years ago, but until Sharmon actually says it, it's wow, it is a long time ago, isn't it? And so through this, I was thinking about the different stages that we might each go through in our lives. And there's a story about Buddhist story, looking at the efforts of 3 laborers. And they were asked, "What are you doing?" Working as they work, asking them, "What are you doing?" And the first one said, "Can't you see? I'm cutting wood," and performing the act that is required, and maybe no further than that. And for myself, I was thinking about a time when I was very, very young and working a summer job at the fruit packing shed and just doing a little bit and working. I think I worked the whole summer and made like $13 or something, and bought a BB gun, and I was done with it, you know. And maybe later, high school days, working at Baskin-Robbins ice cream, and maybe it's just important to see how much ice cream I could eat as it was to get the paycheck every couple of weeks. So then the second laborer was asked, what is he doing? He says, I'm earning money to provide food and shelter for myself and for my family. And so he's working for the reward that it will bring, to be able to sustain the life for himself and for his family. And I could see that I went through that stage as well, trying to provide money, doing what I needed to do to provide not only food, shelter, maybe some insurance coverage and things like this, but not really invested in the work that needed to be done, and looking at it as something that was temporary. And the third worker was asked, what are you doing? Can't you see I'm helping to build this temple? And in his work and in his response, he's working with a purpose and an awareness of the significance of his work, okay? And so the temple might not be the only example, but it's a good example in being aware of the purpose of the work that needs to be done. And so thinking of this story, thinking even further, when I was a student at IBS, Reverend Kusada was there at the time as the director of IBS, and he was described by another sensei as, Kusada sensei has a quiet power. And during one dinner time conversation, he was saying, we must eat so that we can have the power to continue to share the Dharma. And he said this quietly, just looking down, and maybe more of a reflection of himself rather than a direction for us as students to follow. He wasn't telling us that we should think this way, just telling us that this is how we live our lives. Our lives can be lived. So feeding ourselves, not only to enjoy the food and to do so many different things, but so we have the power and the strength to continue to provide the Dharma for others. And at the time, those words seemed so foreign to me. I was in my early 20s and never thought, who thinks like that? To be able to continue to serve, to provide the Dharma for others. I just wanted to learn a little bit about Buddhism, and so that's why I was taking some classes there. So such a direction and a purpose and a dedication to the Dharma, to building a temple, were the farthest things from my mind. But later, years passed, decades passed, and those same words from Kusada Sensei and his quiet power come back to me, come back to me, come back to me. And so, coming back to now, very recently, we had an Ask Reverend Dennis session, and the questions were about bodhisattvas. Are they just around, or how are we to think of bodhisattvas? And it seems, when I think of Kusada Sensei's words, sometimes bodhisattvas just emerge. They appear in our lives to bring you the Dharma, to bring you a mirror, a reflection of ourselves to consider. So we superimpose the image of ourselves that we see and the truths of the Dharma that are provided to us. And through that, we're able to see a little more deeply. And when we reflect upon our own lives, the jobs that we have, maybe enjoying our retirement now, how do we see our efforts? How do we see our efforts? And at which stage am I now? And so hopefully we all have this view of having a purpose and an awareness in our own lives, seeing the value of the temple, the value of the Dharma, what it has provided for us and for our families. And so maybe we can respond in some type of way to continue to assist in the efforts here And I see that all the time as we prepare for our services, prepare for our fundraisers and all of these things, that we have some sense of the value that the temple provides to ourselves and to people surrounding us. And with this, we can consider the words in this Wasan. So please join me again as I read these words one more time. No less than people of shinjin, practitioners of doubt who cling to self-power, should awaken to the benevolence of Amida's great compassion and endeavor in saying the Nembutsu. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. I will now light our incense, and so you can do the same at your homes, however you have set up to do, to light incense or to drop in flower petals, pebbles, marbles, something in lieu of burning incense, and perhaps staying away from the burning smoke that might not be so health conducive. Okay, so we'll conclude this service again. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Namanda, 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 Namanda.